Good evening, and thank you for joining His Will for Your Life podcast. I have joining me this evening is Daniel McRae, and we will be right back.
His Will for Your Life with Cherie Harris. This is your weekly Wednesday 7 p.m. podcast. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Informative, hot topic, testimony, interviews, along with your weekly guests and more. And now here's your host, Cherie Harris.
Welcome back. I have joining me tonight is Daniel McRae. How are you today, sir?
I am outstanding, Miss Sherry. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Awesome.
I'm glad that you are with us tonight.
I am honored.
Yes. So we're going to be talking about faith, family, and finances. And I know that you have your own consulting company, DLM and Sons Inc. Consulting Inc.
That's correct. DLM and Sons Consulting. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So you were established in 2009.
We've actually been in business since 2001. We've been in business since 2001, and then we reincorporated around 2009. But I've been in business for about 20. This is going on my 22nd year.
Okay. And so what made you get into finances?
Ironically, I'm a United States Marine.
Okay.
And they say once a Marine, always a Marine. So
Right.
started out as a United States Marine. And shortly after I came home from the Marine Corps, I met my high school sweetheart, a young lady I went to high school with. We got married. After getting married, we gave birth to a beautiful child. And when my wife was 7 weeks old, she passed away when my son was 7 weeks old. So as a result of passing away, this became kind of dropped in my lap because I was actually doing law enforcement at the time. And someone said, listen, you might need to think about another career path.
Okay.
So as a result, this became kind of dropped on me and dropped my spirit. And I just wanted to help make sure people didn't go through what I had went through relative to their finances and relative to understanding life insurance and understanding the importance of protecting themselves.
Okay. Awesome. So I have a few questions for you this evening as it relates to faith, family, and finances. And so
Okay.
the first question I have for you is, what should believers know about wealth and legacy?
I think the first thing that anybody needs to understand is that when you talk about wealth and legacy, that it's really a mindset first. Because a lot of times we as believers, we chase after money and not often understanding that, like my pastor preaches, that money should be chasing after you. And what I mean by that is, I often look at money as currency. And what is currency, and the true definition of it is really meant to be moved. It's meant to be moving. So if you understand currency and the true definition of currency, that in itself lets you know that it should always be moving. So likewise, your money should always be moving. It should not be stagnant. Money is made to do three things. You're supposed to make it, You're supposed to manage it, and then you're supposed to multiply it. So
Wow.
if you understand that principle, that basic principle, which is what I try to explain to clients when I speak with them, and how that all ties in, that's one of the main things I think that people understand, that as a believers. And one of the things you got to understand, a principle works for anybody. Even a Gentile can use a principle. If you use tithe and giving, look at Oprah Winfrey. She's not a believer, but she gives a tithe. And look at a tenth, and she gives, and that principle works for her. The principle of gravity. If you jump off a building, you're going to fall. It's a principle. You don't have to be a believer to work a principle. So the principles work for anybody.
Exactly. I know that LL Cool J believes this as well. He actually tithes. He believes in tithing and giving God a tenth of his earnings. And he said the same thing that you said.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something, and oftentimes, it's probably easier for most people to, after you've been doing it for a while, it kind of becomes a habit. But for those that people have never done it, once you put it in your hand, it's gone.
Right.
Both sides. Once you put it in your hand, you're not going to do it. So oftentimes I explain to people, it's good to have something, have yourself set up whereby, if once you start taking, if you have a paycheck, just have that coming out automatically.
Mm-hmm.
That way you don't have to look at it if you have a paycheck. If you're an entrepreneur, then as soon as you get that deposit, trying to work it, and that's something I often have to work at myself, because before I know it, I'm paid the bills and paid this person.
Right.
I was like, oh, did I pay my, so it's one of those things that we all are. It's a work in progress.
Right. So I have a question for you.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on poverty being associated with holiness? Because, in the older church, it was viewed as evil, the love of money, because we misconstrue that scripture, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, if you read the scripture, it doesn't say money is the root of evil.
Exactly.
It says the love of money,
Mm-hmm.
is the root of evil. But it ties back to the same scripture that talks about before pride comes before the fall. It talks about lust. What is all in life? The lust for eye, the lust for flesh, the pride of life. Mm-hmm. So if you start talking about and you loving money, mm-hmm. and you let money run you versus you running your money, mm-hmm. Then it becomes a problem. But I think the old church, in all due respect, Grandma, I think the old church got it wrong a little bit there. Yes. Because I don't think nothing wrong. God wants us to prosper.
Exactly.
He said, I want you to prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So he doesn't just want us to be running around the church, spinning, spitting, and shouting, and not having no manifestation.
Right.
He definitely wants.
Right. And also, as far as the believers that quote, we just talked about the love of money, because that's the first thing that people say is the love of money is the root of all evil. Mm-hmm. But in Deuteronomy 8:18, it does tell us that he gives us power to get wealth, right? Because that's the covenant he made with the fathers before. So he wanted to keep his promise. And so it's nothing wrong with getting money, although a lot of people believe that's so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people, Sherry, even in getting money, they look at a job to create that. And a lot of people, even listening to your broadcast, will probably see that, I will think, I have a job and I'm not accumulating wealth. A job was never intended to make you wealthy. Mm. You got to understand, even the Garden of Eden had 5 streams moving into it. So if you don't have multiple streams, I'm not saying quit your job. Maybe your job pays your health benefits. Mm-hmm. Okay. But maybe you're good at baking. Maybe that's another stream that you can create. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're good at sewing. Maybe you need to, maybe you create some passive income. You start investing in some stocks. That's another stream of income. Mm-hmm. If you understand how to work that, sometimes Grandma used to say, use what you have. You got to use what's in your hand. Exactly. Use what's in your hand until you manifest. So if you understand, again, it's going back to principles, understanding what you have to do and having those principles. I even show people how to create extra streams of income because I train you on finances and show you how to work and how to still keep a job and on a part-time basis make some extra income. The problem is a lot of times we don't understand that money you're bringing in is actually a seed. So we have seeds in our hand. If you think about what a seed is meant to do, when you have an apple, you don't eat the whole, you eat the apple. You don't go eat the core. You don't eat the seeds. What do you typically do with the seed? You spit it out. Why? Because it wasn't meant to be digested. A lot of times we eat our seed. And when you eat the seed, as a result, you can't have no manifestation because you've eaten what was meant to be planted.
Wow.
And when you eat what's meant to be planted, what comes out? Well, now it comes out, but it's coming out the wrong way. It's supposed to be planted in the ground. It's not meant to be excrement. It's not supposed to be meant that be that stuff that you use as fertilizer in the ground. So it's supposed to be planted so you can manifest it. So if I want apple trees and I eat an apple, I'm supposed to plant the seed to get apple seeds. I'm not supposed to eat the seed. And that's what we do with our money. A lot of times we eat our seed that God is trying to use to manifest more in our lives. But because we don't tithe, because we don't sow, you got to understand, you sow to grow. You understand? And if you don't sow, then at the end of the day, you wonder why you don't have the examples, or you don't have what it takes, or you don't have the things you need from a manifestation standpoint, because you ate the seed.
Right. So we know the scripture that says, you shouldn't eat. If you don't work, you shouldn't eat, right? So for those families, what would you say to them who work? They live off of paycheck to paycheck. And so, they don't even allow the tithes to come out of that, because there's rent or mortgage, there's the car payment, there's utilities, there's the kids, and all of these things. And so you really have nothing left over. And so what would you say to that family?
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I didn't come, I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but no longer. I remember the days where grandma was in the kitchen and, mixing up the meals, and, I was like, well, how is she gonna make gravy out of what? And putting the flour with the grease, like that's gravy, once we get bougie, we gotta buy the packet gravy.
Right.
But a lot of times,
right.
Well, a lot of the old school, they didn't have that. So what I will say to a person, a lot of times, again, it's faith walk. I love your title, my apostle, Mike Friedman, he talks about that all the time, faith, but one of the things he teaches is, how to work the principles of faith. Because if you don't understand how to work the principle of faith and understand what is it meant to be, you won't get it. So going back to, that person that's working 9 to 5 or not able to pay their bills, it's a faith walk,
Yes.
and you have to start somewhere. It's easy to say when you're not in that place. But I do believe that the Bible is true. I do believe that God was right when he said tithe, he will, open the windows of heaven, and he will open up and he turn over blessings, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. And I have been an example of God's grace. What I've had is no goodness of my own. What I've been able to accomplish in business has been no goodness of my own. It's just been as a result of God's blessings and understanding and being able to walk certain things out that I've seen and take that faith walk. You talk about going back to our initial conversation, the conversation we had a few seconds ago about making sure we have streams of income. Sometimes it's about walking out on faith, And I used to hear the old folks say he could do more with the 90 than you can with the 100.
Exactly. And, I say this all the time, that we should have several streams of income, multiple. And, I often hear people say to me, I'm doing too much. But, I go back to the scripture, and I want you to elaborate on it, where he says our gifts will make room for us, right?
Absolutely.
So those gifts supposed to bring us wealth, right? So it's supposed to bring us money in so that we can leave for our children and our children's children.
I love that. That's actually one of my passions. Having lost, you and I were talking before the broadcast. My wife came when I got married. When I came out the Marine Corps and I was married, my first wife died of complications of childbirth, something called myocardiopathy, which is a disease of the heart. And she died when my son was 7 weeks old. And I can remember back then when it was so difficult um, to understand and fathom how I was going to make what we're going to make in it. And then we happen to have something called life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we talk about a legacy, but we don't, and I understand the principle in church, but we don't teach this very often, and therefore there's no practicality to the scriptures. And just hence, if you don't have a practicality of people how to walk, a lot of times people go the emotionalism in church more so than they do the intellectualism.
Yes.
So a lot of times you're getting up, you're spending preach, but you saying preach to what? How do I go home after the doors close of the church tonight and go home and make that happen? You talked about leaving a legacy. Most people don't know one of the easiest way to leave a legacy to your family is through life insurance. Life insurance is one of those things is one of the few things right now you can actually pass from one generation to the other totally tax free. And if you do that, there's ways to even create a tax free retirement through life insurance. So that as you grow, as long as you qualify and you're healthy, what happens a lot of times in our communities, and I can talk because I'm African American, in our communities, we like to wait until we're in our 80s and our 90s and talk about, okay, now I want to get life insurance. Well, that's not the ideal way to do it. You want to do it while you're healthy.
Right.
And instead of a lot of people times right now, people are still using 401ks and 457s, which were meant to be employer contributed plans. And as opposed to standalone plans. So think about this. A 401k or 457 was actually designed to be an employer sponsored plan. So as a result, Sherry, what happened is employers stopped contributing. So they went from a 401k contributing 100% to 50% to 0%.
Wow.
So, but as a result, people were still contributing to a plan that was designed to be an employer sponsored plan. Well, if you're still contributing to a plan that is no longer contributing, you're not going to get the same results. There are very few jobs out there that still contribute. So as a result, people should have a lot of people pivoted that we didn't know there were people, although we didn't know it. A lot of people were pivoting into life insurance and using that vehicle to create tax-free wealth. So therefore, if I put, let's say, and I'm a young person, I take a $500,000 policy out of myself. So I take $1 million policy out and I say, I'm going to leave this to Jane and Jimmy. Well, Jane and Jimmy need to also, before they extract the death benefit, they need to also go fund their own life insurance before they can now use the benefit that was left for them. So now you keep that perpetual act going on. So they goes from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next. And that's one of the ways when you talk about legacy, that's probably one of the most practical, one of the most easiest ways to leave a legacy. Life insurance, GoFundMe is not a life insurance policy.
I never understood that, but it's good to know that life insurance can go on. I've never heard that before.
Oh yeah, you would be surprised. There's so many vehicles because again, it's about the education. So many people don't know what can happen. So in other words, I just did one for a person the other day, and basically the age of the person, by the time the person was I think 65, they have over $500,000 in the policy that they can take out tax free. Now you think about in respect to putting money into a 401k. Well, people get excited and you ask them, well, how much money do you have in your 401k? Well, they'll come out and they'll say, well, I have $500,000 in my 401k. No, you don't, because after you take the money out from a taxable standpoint, you're going to pay 25 to 30% tax.
Wow.
And after you take the taxes, that's not really what you have. I would highly recommend, if you don't understand the principle that I'm sharing with you tonight, there's a book out called Safe Money Millionaire by Robert Kitchen. Safe Money Millionaire. And it talks about how to create your own family bank through life insurance. So guess what? If I want my daughter, she gets 21, she wants to go buy a car, well, guess what? We could take it out the family bank called life insurance, and she pays the family bank back.
Wow.
As opposed to going to pay a huge interest rate, paying it through the traditional method.
Awesome. Wow, that's awesome. So when would you suggest that people start planning a financial future for their family? Some people say, I'm 60 years old right now, I can't leave a legacy, or, I haven't planned, it's too late, what would you tell that person?
Probably 4 letters, ASAP. So ASAP. So the sooner the better, and it's never too late because okay, you may not have the opportunity to maybe accumulate for yourself, but can you maybe the money that you want, but are you able to leave a legacy? Something is better than not having anything.
Exactly.
And I believe most people have things in place that they don't even realize have value. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you've had, I had a gentleman I spoke to the other day, and he was telling me that he had a policy that he's been paying on since
Mm-hmm.
he was, his mom was paying on him since he was a baby. Well, how old are you now, sir? Well, I'm 50. Well, sir, I'll guarantee you that you paid more into that policy than it's worth. So what is that cash doing for you?
Wow.
So a lot of times you sit down with somebody like myself, and
Mm-hmm.
we look and we find things and we find ways that you can actually benefit and move money around that's already there, but maybe lying dormant. A lot of people don't know if you're working at a job and you have a 401k and you owe it 59 and a half,
Mm-hmm.
you're now eligible to do what they call, you're able to move that money out of that 401k into an IRA. Most employers they're not going to knock on your door and leave you a note on your company inbox and say, hey, you can now move that money, but you can't. If you left one job and moved to another, the worst thing you want to do is take the money from the previous job and roll into the current company's plan. The reason you don't want to do that is because what happens is if that plan fluctuates,
Mm-hmm.
you now have lost principal or dollars from the previous plan, or what we call safe money. So you want to put that money in a safe place, let that work for you, and now start fresh with a new 401k. So those are two things people don't even know they have, and I run across more times than not that people that have money and don't know how to use it.
Wow. So, because these things should also be taught in the church, I think that we should have, people like you to come into our places of worship and share this information. So, um, what are some ways the church can build wealth?
I think it really starts, Sure. I really think it really starts with practicality.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just starts with basic conversation. And unfortunately, I feel like as an African American community, we've been so underserved
Mm-hmm.
uh, from a understanding standpoint that we can't start the conversation that other communities can start. We can't start at that same entry level. We have to have a very basic conversation relative to uh, how to save, you know, how to put money up. What methods are there? What's the interest rate? What's the rule of 72? What's compounding?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, as opposed to a lot of times some of those basic, meetings that we're having in church, have a Saturday out of the month that you do education. Have a Saturday that you're bringing in a financial professional that doesn't mind giving back as a like tonight. This is something I do to give back to the community, and this is just my way of sewing back into because this is how I got started.
Right.
And I always like to give back because you never know the one nugget that you might give might be a blessing to somebody. So to answer your question, I think it comes with basic conversation, and it really has to do with a willingness of the pastor because a lot of pastors don't want to have the conversation. If I could be perfectly honest, most pastors are broke. Most pastors are living off the tithes of the church. It's very few pastors. I'm sorry to say that, but I don't get paid. I'm not getting paid by none of them, so it doesn't matter to me. But
Mm-hmm.
most pastors, not all, but a lot of pastors, they are in a position where they can't even retire.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't retire and you haven't properly planned, how can you teach something that you haven't mastered yourself? But if you're willing, I think it's always the ability to have that conversation, be willing to have the dialogue. Even pastors having a key man policy. What does a key man policy for a pastor look like? Well, it's basically a policy. We talked about tax-free retirement that the pastor has on himself. That's a 50-50 split between the first lady or the wife of the family in the church. So the church pays for it. If something happens, the wife gets 50%, the church gets 50%. It's still tax-free to the 501c3, the church entity, and it's tax-free to the spouse. So it gives her the ability to now replace the income of the spouse for a period of time, especially if he was full time. But it also puts in place the ability for that church to go hire and bring a new pastor on board and have his salary paid for maybe the first year or two. But these are also things that people are not having the conversations people aren't having.
Wow. It's interesting because you can pretty much tell who the pastor is by the congregation. And
Hmm.
what I mean by that is if the pastor is broke, right, usually his congregation is broke. I was blessed to come from a pastor who he wasn't always in for the money, but he taught us a lot. And
Yeah,
because he prospered, it fell on us. And so the congregation was, they have prospered as well. But
hmm,
we find a lot of pastors who are in it for themselves. And so they have, the fancy cars and, the big homes, but their congregation is lacking. Or you have
yeah.
a pastor who is lacking, and therefore his congregation is lacking as well, um, because that is not preached or taught across the pulpit.
Yeah, and I think it's just one of those things that I think the more that we can have the conversation, the more willingness. And like you, I've seen it on both sides of the coins. I've seen pastors that are broke, busted and disgusted.
Mhm.
Likewise, their congregation. But I've also seen churches that are not broke, and the church pastor isn't really using the money from the church. He's making getting his money elsewhere, if
Mhm.
you will. And he has outside ventures. He has outside businesses that are making that money. So it's not draining the church. And I think it goes back to the tithing because of the mindset of our people is that I'm not trying to, they feel like they're paying for the lifestyle or funding the lifestyle of the pastor.
Mhm.
Hence, I don't want to pay into tithes. I don't want to, but again, at the end of the day, God doesn't hold you responsible God holds you responsible for what's in your hand, not once you release it. Once you release it, you release it to God, and at the end of the day, it's His job to figure out what's happening with the money from that point.
Mm. So tell us a little bit about your business. So I'm gonna give you an opportunity if anyone is looking to get in contact with you, of trying to invest, need your advice of what to do, how to plan for the future. How would they get into contact with you?
Well, we basically do. Firmly believe, um, that it starts with basics. I work with young people as well as I work with older people. We have two sides of our business. We have the one aspect of the business where we actually take on clients. We sit down with them and there's no consultation. We sit down and try to see if we can make a recommendation in terms of where they need to go and what direction they should go in, whether that be from money's assets that they may have incurred, whether that be from money that they're trying to put up for the future, whatever the case may be. And then we also work with individuals that are looking to create extra income on a part-time basis or on a full-time basis. And we actually train them on how to get licensed and come aboard and actually work with us as a company. And then that is, so there's two aspects of it. If you want to reach me via Facebook, it's DLM and Sons Consulting. If you want to email me, it's info at dlmfinancial.net. So info at dlmfinancial.net. And if you want to call the office, you can call 240-444-3420. 240-444-3420. So those are the ways that you can get in touch with.
Awesome, awesome. I appreciate that because there's someone listening who may need you. I think I do too. So
All
I
right.
think I'll be reaching out to you, but we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
All right. Sounds good.
Nina's Balloon Emporium creates and sells balloon decor that range from classic balloon decorations to elegant and unique organic designs. Their goal is to provide elegant balloon decor that provokes great feelings, transform and revolutionize an event while creating an experience you'll never forget. If you have something to celebrate, they will decorate. In addition to providing elegant and unique balloon decor, they pride themselves on giving back to the community. Their current initiatives include the Adopt a Grandparent campaign, giving balloon buddies to residents in the nursing facility to bring joy and hope, and donating a portion of their proceeds to Food Share in Bloomfield, Connecticut. You may reach April N. Williams at www.ninasballoonimperium.com.
Welcome back. We're here with Daniel McCrae talking about faith, family, and finances. So we're back, sir. And
Also,
you have been giving out some pretty good information. I know a lot of people, when we talk about wealth and we talk about finances, most people think about flipping homes or into the real estate, which I don't find anything wrong with that. But what are some other ways that we can make money and leave a legacy to our children?
well, think of it like a pyramid. If you think of a pyramid, you never see a pyramid if you go look at Egypt. The pyramids are never, the point is never down. So you always have to have a foundation. So foundations come from, if you think from the basic foundation, the first layer, I want you to, if you are at home, I want you to think about, draw out a pyramid and divide it into three sections. One of the things I would like for you to look at is the first layer, or that if you look at it in three sections, the first layer is basic. So we talk about the protection on the basic layer. Protection could be disability insurance. It could be life insurance. It could be the very basic of protection. So you want to think of protection from a base. The middle layer is retirement. Then you want to start talking about how to go into RET, retirement. What are some of the vehicles you want to use for retirement? And then the top layer is when you want to look at investing. So, but most people, they will turn that pyramid upside down, and instead of looking at protection, they look at investment, then they look at retirement, then they say, I want to protect myself, which is absolutely backwards, because if one thing happens, and most of us understand in the African-American community, we're one paycheck away from poverty.
Exactly.
We're one incident from happening from us being totally devastated. I'll give you another example. We talk about protection. One of the reasons I like protection, most people don't know that, but they have the old type, the flip phone version of what we call life insurance. The flip phone version of life insurance means that you have to die to use that policy. That's why grandma used to say, I'm not going to die and make nobody. Somebody say it with me. Rich, your grandma's name was Elma.
Yes.
Your grandma's name was Elma. That's what grandma used to say. But now we have the ability to actually get living benefits life insurance in place, which basically protects you not just if you die, but also if you're living. So if you're living, and let's say you had a very basic policy, let's say a $100,000 policy, that policy would pay you up to 80% of that death benefit for a critical, chronic, or terminal illness. So 80% of that death benefit could be used what we call living benefits. So we understand that most Americans don't understand it's going to cost you about $90,000 a year if you have to go into a skilled nursing facility. Do you have $90,000 a year? Does the person listening have $90,000 a year? Do you have not? Well, if you do, it's probably in one of those old vehicles. It's probably in your 401k. So what you now telling me, you're now going to have to borrow from your future asset, your future lifestyle to take care of a present day need because you didn't properly plan. And what I'm saying is it doesn't have to cost a lot. There's different ways to fund it, different ways to do it that you can actually use present day. Some of the ways that I like that we talk about the life insurance from a protection, protecting yourself. That way I like it because I like it because, you know what, sir, I like it. The reason I like it because it covers three things. It covers you if you die too soon. It covers you if you live too long. It also covers you if anything happens in between. So let's talk about that. So life insurance can theoretically cover if you die too soon. So if something happens, like in my situation, my wife passed away. She was only 29 years old. She passed away from myocardiopathy, a disease of the heart, giving birth to my son. Well, thank God for somebody was smart enough to tell us to put some life insurance in place, right? So, but living benefits life insurance covers you more than just that death. So it also covers you if you die too soon, but live too long. So what's living too long? Well, nowadays, we know modern medicine, most people are living a lot longer than they used to. So what that simply means is if I live too long, what that simply means is I'm going to have money growing with my lifestyle, because most people think their retirement is going to last them into the rest of their years of their retirement, and they're going to probably have more years than they're going to have money. So with supplementing a retirement plan with this, if you're not getting money, if you're working a job and they're not matching your 401k or 457, this is a good time to now look at supplementing that so that money can work for you outside of that. What's part three? And if anything happens in between, we talked about the living benefits. So the life insurance can also cover you for that third thing. If something happens in the middle of the stage from me starting the policy to me dying, if something happens in between, I'm critically unforeseen. Do you have cancer? Most nowadays in Maryland, cancer rate is very high. I don't know where else your listeners are, but I know cancer is very high in Maryland. This policy could theoretically cover you while you're recuperating. I love living benefits. So those are some of the other ways. And some of the other ways, we have real estate. Real estate having brick and mortars. But again, I'm very careful of people that have other assets of vehicles that they're using that may not have been but they haven't properly planned. And then you might want to look at a CFP. Somebody's a certified financial advisor. I'm a CEP, certified estate planner, but I'm not a CFP, certified financial planner. So I have people that I work with that are financial planners that we can work with and maybe correlate a plan to make to help that person work. And then basic stocks, maybe find an EFTs. EFTs, when you have a bunch of stocks in one bubble, you buy. Think of it like the bubble gum machine. You have different colors. So you put that cord in and you can get the red, the blue, the green. So all that is very, very beneficial. The other thing is we talk about that, the aspect of using an EFT versus a stock. A stock is when you go into doing one particular stock and you basically buying low and you sell high. So I guess if I give the layman's version, what you don't want to do is you don't ever want to jump on a trampoline when the trampoline is in the air. That's the wrong time to get on. Same thing with stock. If you have one of these, I don't care if you have what they call Stash and all these other apps. If you go look at a chart and you see the stock in the air, that's probably not the best. You probably want to investigate whether or not that's a good time based on potential. But again, there's a book out called, again, you can see I like to recommend books.
Yes.
Stocks for Dummies. Stocks for Dummies. Nobody on here is dumb, so that's not why they call it Stocks for Dummies. But it's literally the name of the book, Stocks for Dummies. So it can teach yourself how to do stocks. And then you want to subscribe to podcasts that may teach you. There's a lot of bad podcasts out there, but there's a lot of good podcasts out there. So, find a good financial podcast that you can use that will be beneficial, that can teach you some basic principles.
Okay. How much should a family save, or the working family member save per paycheck, for an emergency fund? How much should they be saving per paycheck?
That's going to, I used to say, try to save, 10% tithe, 10% saving. But in this day and time, to be perfectly honest with Sherry, sometimes that's why I think it's important for people to create part-time income. Because in this day and time, with everything rising, the cost of living, it may not be feasible. And the real deal is, well, daughter, well, ma'am, well, sir, you sitting home thinking you're going to be a stay-home mom. Well, you know what? You might need to bring in an extra $500 for the month. This might be the time to go out and generate an extra income. Because what will happen is, you will find that the potential to save is getting a lot harder, particularly because what grandma used to be able to survive on when we were growing up, most people can't survive on. So it's going to take a different mindset. But what I will tell you is you want about 6 months emergency cash saved. So 6 months of your bills. So if your bills are $1,000 a month, which I don't know anybody bills are, but I'm just using for basic math, you want about $6,000 set aside for emergency cash. Okay. And I also recommend putting that in a vehicle that's going to allow you to maybe make some interest on it. Again, we talked about currency. Currency is meant to move. What is money? Money is currency. That's what they call it, currency. So it's meant to be moved. So make sure that you find something that's going to move your money and help you get some type of ROI, return on your investment. I like to look at, teach people some basic principles relative to even their monies. A lot of people don't understand the rule of 72. So what you look at is, I'm going to teach this real quick, but the rule of 72 says you want to divide 72 in terms of the amount of interest that you're getting. It's going to tell you how many years you're going to double. So in other words, if I'm putting my money in the bank, okay, and you getting that, let's say the bank, and I don't know any banks that are doing this, let's say that book, that see, my ADD kicks. I read and I say it. Somebody, Savannah put books up there, and I'm not messing around with me. I done read the word book. And next I know it came out my mouth. So what I was saying was, if you go in the bank and let's say you can find 2% interest, which is not even keeping up with the cost of inflation. Okay, that 2% divided by 72, that means it's going to take you 36 years to double your money.
Wow.
36 years. So, Daniel, what other vehicles can I use? That's why I love insurance, because typical insurance companies will get me a rate of return of 7. I have one of the companies that has like a 10-50% rate of 10 to 14% rate of return. So let's look at that. So if you have a 72 divided by 14, now it's only going to take how many years for your money to double? 72 divided by 14. Now every 5 years your money going to double. So if you put 50,000 in there, every 5 years your money's going to double. You're going to go from 50,000 to 100,000 just on yielding a reasonable rate of return. RRR.
Wow.
So people out there paying the investor, these companies, the stockbrokers, money to manage your account. You don't need to pay people to manage your account. You just do some due diligence. I'm gonna tell you this way. I like to tell my clients: your butcher is never going to tell you to become a vegetarian. As long as you paying fees, as long as you out there giving Mr. Butcher money, he ain't gonna ever tell you. Because think about it: you got this money in your 401k. They told you, listen, you should buy low and sell when. Yeah, but when it gets high, do they ever tell you to sell?
No.
Exactly. So that's why I tell people, listen, there's smarter ways to use your money to get a better reasonable rate of return.
Wow, this is some pretty good stuff, because we don't hear about it on this aspect. We hear of the kind of get-rich schemes quickly in real estate, but there are some key points that we need, and I love the way that you put the pyramid, because we do it backwards. We do it, instead of from protection, we start with investments.
Absolutely.
So for those who may just be joining again, when you talked about in the beginning about the legacy and how we should have money saved, right? How we should invest our money, how we should have our money, and it's through life insurance. So if you want to talk about that again, just for those who may be joining us now.
Yeah, we were basically recapping. We were just talking about how important, how fundamental life insurance can be in a portfolio. Does that mean that's the all in all? But no. But a lot of people, from a tax-free standpoint, don't understand that life insurance is one of the few vehicles left in America whereby you can accumulate cash and then it's passed on from one generation, because this is talking about faith, family, and finances. So from a family's perspective, this is the one thing that you can actually transition money into the next generation or to the next generation totally tax-free. So if you want to leave, and even if you have a larger estate, let's say you have an estate and you want to pay your estate tax as well. In order to transfer those estate tax, even through life insurance, I have clients that will actually buy a life insurance policy to pay the estate tax because that's tax-free versus you take it out the estate, there's a tax associated with that. It's called a transfer tax. So I like clients to understand that, listen, there's sound principles. Safe Money for Millionaires is a great book to read on how to accumulate money long term. And you ask, when should a person start? ASAP. I don't care if you're 55 and you feel like you don't miss your shot. The boat, you don't miss your boat. Well, guess what? Your ship is sailing. You might have missed the boat, but the ship is sailing in, and it's time to get on. All right. So there's always an opportunity. There's always something that you can do, because something. I'm a firm believer. Something is better than nothing, and you got to start somewhere. But if you want to start a race and you never leave the finish line, you'll never get started.
Right. So, we talked about getting wealth. The Bible says he gives us power to get wealth. We talked about he wants us for our soul to prosper and for us to be in health. What would you say to those who think that money is the evil way? I know we talked about that earlier, and we always say money is the root of all evil. Those in the world love to say that when they see a pastor with a Mercedes or with a Bentley or whatever they like to use that when the scripture says the love of money. Elaborate on that scripture just a little bit, because the love is the key word in that text.
The love of money is definitely it, but people also don't understand. There's another scripture that talks. I was trying to look up while you were talking, but it also talks about money answers all things in the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think money is evil, I dare you, go to your bank account, take out all the money that you have in it, and just go in the backyard, light a trash can, and just light it on fire, because that's bad. Just light. But I promise you, you're not going to survive very long.
Mm-hmm.
I strongly believe, I think it's about principle. I think it's about making sure, it's really about making sure that at the end of the day, you keep it in perspective. Money is not controlling you. You're controlling money. It's almost like when you take that $20 bill and you break it. By the time once you break it, you ever notice it's automatically gone. But if you keep it intact, see, money is one of those things. If you don't assign it, give it a task, and you don't tell it where to go, it'll go where. It's like the wind. It'll go wherever. It'll just blow all over the place. But if you very strategic, sit down. My daddy used to use one of those composition notebooks, and he used to write down columns and write down the bills in each column and then how much he had. He used to really write it out. One of the things about this day and time, I think if you give your money an assignment and you understand what you're trying to accomplish, and the biggest thing is consistent. You get a plan and stick to it. Get a plan and stick to it. So Ron, thank you. Ecclesiastes 10:19, King James Version. A feast is made for laughter and wine maketh merry. But money answers, that's the scripture. That's it right there. Money answers all things in the earth. So you got to understand, it's about the money. Money is not the evil. It's when you get it backwards, when you don't understand, when you let it rule you, when you allow it to be your master, when you serve it. That's when the challenge comes.
And I believe it's from when you're not donating, you're not paying your tithes, you're not giving, because a lot of times we hold on to our money and scared to spend it. My father, rest his soul, he was tight with money. He held on to that money. He would count his money. When he go to hand you some money, he's fiddling with it to make sure he's not giving you 2 or 3 bills at one time. But
absolutely.
Yeah, so
I love old school.
Old school. But we love money too much where we don't want to let it go, and so we let money drive us. It drives us to places that we shouldn't actually go. I believe in giving time. You give your tithes and you give your talents. And I heard that again this week, where we just supposed to give. And I know when I give, it comes back, whether it's in money form or it's just a blessing.
Oh yeah.
Answer to a prayer. So I believe in sowing into others. I think that's very important, that we don't hold on to money and let it rule us. We let it just take us to places, like I said, we shouldn't go.
And you also want to sow into good ground, because everything is not fertile soil.
Exactly.
So, if you got Pookie, your cousin, and every time Pookie borrowed money,
yes,
Pookie going and buying drugs, and Pookie going out wasting your money. Well, that ain't good ground. That ain't sowing. That's wasting.
Exactly.
But likewise, you might not have somebody that's not a relative, and you go down and you give it to them, and you understand that, because guess what? They were, you talk about the talents, you talk about the 10 that Jesus gave, the 10 people that Jesus gave talents to, and all of them buried except that one. Well, the one, he came back. Where, what did you do with what I gave you? The one servant had did everybody else. Well, I buried it. Going back to what you're saying, a lot of people shared they will bury the talent. I don't want to use. Well, you didn't. You weren't a good steward of what I gave you. Did I not come back and ask you to multiply what I gave you?
Yes.
Versus you, and only the one came back and said, you know what, this is what I did. I multiplied it. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Looking, because I guess the Bible also says the lender is servant to the borrower. The borrower is servant to the lender. So when you borrowing money, you're servant to the person that's lending it to you.
Yeah.
You're now their servant.
Yes.
So do you want to be the servant, or do you want to be the master? So you have to put yourself in a position, and not that you want to rule over people, but you definitely don't want to be under nobody's control. You ever borrow $50, $50 from somebody, and you see them coming, and you got ducked by, oh, Lord, they come out on them. Nobody want to live like that.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, let's elevate our thinking. I'm excited because right now we have a growing organization where we're helping people generate income on a part-time basis. We have people making $150,000 a year just using basic principles of how to make additional income and getting licensed. We have people that are really changing their lives, paying off debt. That's one of my passions, making sure that, see, you understand, you can make $1 million a year and be poor
Mm-hmm.
based on your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
But likewise, you don't have to make above $50,000 a year and live wealthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Someone says to be the lender and not the borrower, and that is so true. But we have people who always borrowing, perhaps, right? They borrow or they're seeking you for something but never want to give.
Oh yeah.
I need to be delivered from that, because I have a problem with those people, where they're always getting and they're always blessed, but they're not blessing others. I believe in paying it forward. And you have a lot of people who don't want to do that. And so they hold on to their money just to hold on to it when there's someone that's in need and need that money. You're not going to miss it if you
Right.
have so much of it. So we need to learn how to give and to share, I believe, but also have some stored up for ourselves.
Yeah. And I think it's also very important to understand the difference between, and I think sometimes some of us feel guilty and, I'm going to be a blessing to somebody. Well, you're not necessarily, because if in that instance, they're being a leech and they're draining you.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bible talks about not giving your pearls to swine. And you're not obligated to give in that instance. Knowing laws work very well. Absolutely, Savanda. Knowing laws you have to be a good steward of what God gives you, because otherwise you're held responsible. That's no different than burying the talent.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different.
And I also started to learn that everybody is not my assignment, right? And it's not my ministry, because there are some people who really do need it, but there are some who are leechers. There are some who just too lazy to work for it, and they just want somebody else to do it for them. But you have the necessary tools for us, and I think that's very important. So at this time, I would like for you just to talk about your business so that people will understand what you offer, and so that they can reach out to you, because it is my desire that we are not lacking, because too many of us in the body of Christ look like we don't have a father, right? He says, we have this father who has it all. Cattle on the hill, right? So let's talk to those people for a moment.
Well, first of all, I want to give it back to you, because this platform that you have is the bomb diggity. And I know that's not a word, y'all, but I'm just going to use it for tonight. But Sherry, I want to compliment you and I want to celebrate you, because this is where it starts. Maybe somebody's not getting it in the pulpit, but they can tune into your podcast and get and be able to get a nugget that they're able to help get for themselves. That's where it starts. I really don't like talking about myself much. I really don't.
I can see you went around this quite a bit.
Yeah. It's really not my forte. But I just really love this platform, and I will do a good job posting and putting and trying to send people your way to make sure that your message and your word is getting out. And anybody I can recommend or know that I can get to help come on your program to be a guest, I would love to. Whether that be an attorney, whether it be a pastor, anybody I know, I would love to have them come on. So.
Awesome.
DLM & Sons Consulting is a firm that we do financial services from an insurance-based standpoint. We do not do stocks. We do not do mutual funds. I'm not securities licensed. I do everything fixed. But if you do need securities and do you have stocks, we do have people that are well capable hands that we can put you in. We focus on fixed investments, showing people how to make what we call create safe money, whether that be through vehicles, maybe using your retirement that you currently have and getting it out of your employer's hand if you're over 59 and a half, and put it into a plan whereby you can lock in and secure your principal, or whether that means that you've left the previous job and you left your money there, but you're no longer there. And I don't know anybody that will leave their wallet on the table and go to the grocery store and come back and expect their wallet will still be on the table.
Wow.
So if you're no longer there, your money should probably not be there. Then we offer, showing clients how to create wealth from a tax-free standpoint, from a tax-free retirement standpoint. Our website is DLM Financial, www.dlmfinancial.net. You can email us at info@dlmfinancial.net, and you can call us at 240-444-3420. And if you need to create some additional streams of income, right now we have some positions open where we're hiring some individuals. I'm looking for very sharp-minded individuals that have a desire to serve, first and foremost, to serve the community and go out and assist people. And if that's a desire of yours, feel free to text that number 240-444-3420, and just text me debt-free, and I will let you know what you need to do to move forward.
Do they have to live in Maryland?
You do not. We are working in all 50 states, including Hawaii.
Wow.
Including Hawaii. So yes, you could be anywhere in the continental United States, and we can do a little AT&T, reach out and touch you. Matter of fact, I'm glad you said that. Thank God for Georgia Lane Wright, because she's the person and the reason that I am even on the program tonight. And she is the person that I would more than likely connect you with if you email me. So if you call and say, I found you by way of Sherry, well, guess what? We're going to contact Georgia Lane Wright. We're going to be a blessing to her. So this is nothing to me.
Awesome.
This is all because of God and because of Sherry, Miss Georgia Sherry and Georgia Lane Wright. Georgia, big props to you. I know you're listening. So we want to make sure we be a blessing to her and help her build and help her grow and create her legacy. So thank you, guys.
Yes. So because you're so modest, I want you to talk about the 2 NFL athletes that you helped, as well as a heavyweight champion.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. All right.
I don't like to talk about myself, so since I have the seat, I thought I'd put you on the spot.
All right. So I used to work with Keon Carpenter. Keon is from Baltimore. He played for the New York Jets. If you Google him, Keon Carpenter. Rest his soul. He died from a tragic accident a few years ago. But we work with him. This same thing, just from a tax-free standpoint. Hasim Rockman, who used to be the heavyweight champion of the world. We worked with him when he was before he even went champion. Got his championship. I actually spent a lot of time with him. Matter of fact, I'm still in close contact with him. He's still a good friend of mine, even till today. And then we also work with Jeff Blackshear. Jeff Blackshear and Orlando Brown, who you probably know that name because his son, Orlando, is actually playing for the Baltimore Ravens now. So Orlando, we used to call him Zeus, used to play for the Baltimore Ravens. He's one of those guys who had his back was about the size of 3 of mine. But those were good guys that just gave me an opportunity back in the day just to be a blessing to them. And we were able to, sit down with them. And it was a very competitive market because coming in as a young African-American man, I didn't have gray on my face then. I actually had black hair then. I actually had hair. And, coming into this industry and trying to speak to some of those guys, it was just a blessing that they even gave you an ear because you had so many people in their ear from an agent standpoint. And even people that are listening now, if you have an agent, your child, or you have a child that's actually going into professional sports, look for an agent that looks like them. Look for someone that looks like them, even from a financial standpoint, because so often we advisors, we don't get those opportunities that they get. So I highly recommend, as long as they're qualified and they're capable, give them an opportunity to be a blessing to your child, because I guarantee you they can do just as good of a job as they can from the other side of the coin.
Awesome. Before I let you go, I want you to talk about youth for a moment. Right now, I've been showing my son a little bit of what I know and purchase him some books on investing so that at his age, at 11, he can start earlier. So the things I didn't know at 11 or even at 25, I want him to know now, because I feel that's the way this world is going. So can you talk about that? Of when should we get them started and how?
Yeah, that's good. You want to captivate their attention where they are. Maybe you do some small tasks, say, hey, listen, give me, your allowance, and you show them how their allowance grew. Or I'm old school. I don't believe in paying you to do a task, paying you to do chores. I'm
Exactly.
old school. But maybe, I like, way I was taught, when it snowed outside, we didn't sit in the house and watch the snow fall. We grabbed a shovel and we went to a neighbor next door and the neighbor next door to them and say, can I shovel you? And then you show them, okay, look, now you have that. Let me show you how you spend your money. Okay, you want that T-shirt? No, we're not going to go buy it all at once. I tell you what, you can save 10% of what you make, or save $10 from this 25. You're gonna save us. Okay, you got to pay the church. You got to pay your tithes, which is $2.50, and you show them at the basic level, at where they understand it. And I think that, but you know what? I think more is caught than taught, meaning that as he watches you, be a good steward of what you have. That will probably stick with him more than anything. I think him watching his mother manage what she has, and he's like, well, Ma, how did we go on vacation? And because well, baby, let me show you how we did that.
Right.
And then you don't just give them anything. Even let's say it's not a vacation. Baby, let me show you how Mama was able to make that happen. What I did was, when I got paid, I put away X, I put away Y, and I filled up this amount of time so that you could get these tennis shoes that you wanted. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let's have that conversation. And having that conversation that they're not having with anybody else because they're not teaching in the public schools, and finding him maybe a financial mentor. Maybe you allow him to, because you be surprised. Some waters, some plants, Cherry, but God sends the increase. And I know we're wrapping out, but as we're wrapping up, sometimes you may just want to find a place for him to, volunteer during the summer, and you'll be surprised at who will come in his path.
Awesome. I thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed you. I've learned some. I was trying to take as many notes as I possibly could. But we hope that some people will reach out to you. I know I will.
I look forward to it.
Forward to investing. And we look forward to probably having you back. Maybe you can, we can have a part 2. I'm quite sure it'll probably be asked. Some people are asked to come back from the viewers. So this time we can accompany you on this piece. But we really thank you for joining us tonight. And maybe we can have your pastor, Mike Friedman, and Dr. Dee come.
I will work on it for you. Yes. I promise you, I will work on it. I will work on it, see what we can make happen.
Yes, I enjoyed them, but I didn't know that he had the Faith, Family, and Finances segment.
That is his logo. Yeah, he about to come at you for copyright infringement. I'm just you might want to look for that copyright.
Yeah. Someone says this was awesome. Please have him back.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thank you, Cheryl. I look forward to, and then also we on Facebook, DLM and Sons Consulting. Look us up on Facebook. We are on Facebook. So DLM and Sons Consulting, we were happy to link up with you and know some of our new extended family. But make sure you contact us and say, hey, listen, how do I get in touch with Georgia Lane Wright so we can put her to work and make sure she's busy? Y'all ain't gonna be working me, making me do all this hard work. We're gonna put Georgia to work.
Yes, Miss Georgia. Georgia is all over this platform.
Yes,
part of the panel discussion team. She's been on talking about mind, body, and soul. She's been back twice because they wanted her back.
She's awesome.
About the right things to eat. It's good for our bodies. So she does have that financial piece, but she left that in her hands tonight.
I got it. I'm happy to help.
Yes. So thank you again. Hold on, and we'll be right back. Wait a minute. We have something else. I just copied the contact information and sent it to my daughter. Great sharing.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Georgia said she paid you to say that.
Come on, Georgia. Come on through. You know, I had to put that plug in, Georgia.
Wow.
That's my people. I love it.
Good information. Awesome. So even though they were quiet, they were listening.
I know. I felt like I was just talking to my computer. I was like, hey, is anybody out there?
Yeah.
It's weird when you do a podcast because all I see is just you. And I see myself on the camera.
Right.
I'm like, am I talking to anybody? I feel all crazy. But I'm so glad somebody got something out of it. If it was just one.
Yeah. There's
it made
actually
my
a lot
day.
of comments over on the side. I stopped the guests from seeing it because it was a distraction for them. So
Okay.
I put it up in the front so that you can see it. But it's usually
Is there a recording people can watch?
Yeah, it's going to be it's live now on YouTube, and it's going to remain on YouTube. So they can continue to watch on YouTube. They can also continue to watch on Facebook as well. So it will be a replay on this as well.
Awesome.
All right. So thank you again. Thank you all for tuning in. We hope that you were blessed and encouraged. We hope that something has been said or done that's going to inspire you to save, to invest, and to learn more about saving your money. I think this is it for us right now. And so we're going to have a good night. Remember, your worth is not a negotiation. Okay. Have a good evening, everyone.
According to Jeremiah 29, God has a plan. Come on, Joel, let's encourage the people. And we know all things work together.
Please join Cherie and her special guest again next week for another riveting and informative segment of His Will for Your Life podcast.